boys and girls, I want to tell you a story about a film critic that was obsessed about finding the perfect movie. Day after day, he would make a journey to the local pub. No, that's not right. Let's leave that bit out of the story. Let's see here. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, this is better. Day after day, he would make a journey to a local theatre in his quest to find the perfect movie. But after each and every movie, this critic would leave the theatre with a sigh of disappointment, for he had trouble finding his perfect movie. What you're about to hear is a story of a journey that's full of hope, friendship, and most of all, heart. Let's start the story of Justin from the Movie Wire and his journey of the worst... No, come on, I'm not saying that word. Worst movies this year so far. It all started with Once Upon a Time.
It's time to join the clusterfuck of cinema.
Hang on, wait.
We're counting down films that piss Justin off. Welcome to the Movie Wire's top worst films where the bad films play.
Hang on, wait a minute.
We'll laugh and we'll rant in a hilarious way. Top 5 worst flicks. Oh, what a fucking delight. Grab your popcorn, let's roast them tonight. Fuck these movies.
Wait. I was told this was for Disney.
Here we go! Welcome to the show! It's Movie Wire time! Let's go! Laughing through the tears, we're in for a blast. These films, oh man, they suck ass. Grab your popcorn, let's go to war. We're counting down the worst, let's start to roast. Shitty scripts, dumb plots, another fucking superhero. Justin's here to vent, so grab a drink, take a shot, let's go! Grab a drink, take a shot, get ready for some shit. It's the Movie Wire counting down the trash. Raise your finger and give the Movie Wire salute for the worst of the year that made Justin spill his beer. Here we go, here's the shit, let's go! Hey! Oh! Hey! Here we go, here's the shit, let's go!
This isn't a story about heart or friendship, and this guy's a jerk.
Welcome to this week's edition of The Movie Wire. I'm your host, Justin Henson, and welcome to the show. Before we get into the back half of the year full of feel-good holiday movies, Oscar bait, and some really, really good movies that will deserve some recognition, I figured it was a great time to just kind of check in, to give some recognition to some movies throughout the year that deserve my recommendation to avoid at all costs. This week on the show, I cover the top 5 worst movies of the year so far, and this may be subject to change by the end of this year, but these are the top 5 films that make me cringe every time I see the title. So without further ado, here is the Movie Wire's top 5 worst films of the year so far.
Grab your popcorn, let's go to war! Grab a drink, take a shot, get ready for some shit. Give the Movie Wire salute for the worst of the year. Here we go, here's the shit, let's go!
Let's go! But the song is catchy.
5.
You suck.
Cassandra Webb is a New York metropolis paramedic who begins to demonstrate signs of clairvoyance. Forced to challenge revelations from her past, she needs to safeguard 3 young women from a deadly adversary who wants them destroyed. In the new adaptation to the Marvel comic book is Madam Web.
Cassandra Webb, your powers allow you to see different realities and change the future.
A week ago, I spent my life racing against time, trying to save people who were running out of it. Jackie! Until one moment changed everything.
Come on! Welcome back to the land of the living.
New York City is a whole new level of crazy these days. New York City is a whole new level of crazy these days.
I've seen that man before. He was in the Amazon with my mom, right before she died.
I have no idea where those girls are coming.
He's trying to change what happens.
I don't understand what's happening.
What is going on? You don't think this is weird? How we're all connected?
It's honestly like the least weird thing that's happened all day. Ezekiel Sims. I think he can see into the future. If you want to live, you have to trust me.
Julia, get down!
You're showing off. Maybe a little.
About the halfway mark into Madam Web, I was trying to think of one of the worst superhero movies of all time, just to entertain myself. I was trying to think if Madam Web was better or worse than that. Then the 1997 film that attempted to bring Shaquille O'Neal to the big screen as a superhero in the movie Steel came to mind. Now, that was a movie when I originally watched it that I thought couldn't get any worse when it comes to the superhero genre. That is until I witnessed the complete and absolute abomination of this movie. Steel is Citizen Kane of superhero movies compared to the idiotic, insulting dumpster fire of a superhero movie that is Madam Web. Now, it's one thing that the film isn't very good in the first place, but I hate the mere thought that studios think that this is okay, and that we take these mere characters and studios say, that's good enough. People will come just to see a comic book character on the big screen. It makes me fucking furious that studios put this out on the big screen and treats the viewer as we're complete morons, thinking that this is the type of superhero movie that the public wants. Madam Web adds nothing of entertainment value except the boos you will hear from when the credits roll. Now, before viewing Madam Web, Alex over at the Talking Smack podcast shared an article talking about this mere topic, and I took a screenshot to a paragraph that quoted Quentin Tarantino, who was quoted saying in regards to the superhero movies that Marvel actors are not the stars. The characters are. Fans flock to see our comic book characters on screen, not who plays them per se. And I have to say, I agree with this statement. This movie was a double whammy for me. I didn't know much about our Madam Web character before the movie, and the movie actually made me less interested and gave me even less of a desire to even seek out the character comics after watching the movie. You take that with Dakota Johnson's bizarre betrayal and 50 Shades of Grey performance of the character, and we are just left with nothing but a big steamy pile of spider webs that just got shit out of a spider's ass on the big screen. As a film attempting to explore the mysterious and complex character of Madam Web, it instead delivers a convoluted and poorly executed character story and a pointless narrative that left me confused, frustrated, and rooting against our hero. Even if we take out our utter bore of a performance from Johnson, the written material is not only cringy, simplistic, and well, let's just say it, it's just bad, but our written characters were written to the point of idiocracy. These are some of the dumbest comic book characters that I have ever seen on screen. For example, we have our main protagonist, Cassandra Webb, who works as a paramedic, who begins to have some detailed deja vu moments. And with the sporadic direction from S.J. Clarkson and ludicrous editing, the film wants us to believe that these visions are incredibly intense for Cassandra Webb, and she knows something's wrong. As a paramedic, a medical professional, don't you think if you start to see the future and you start to repeat moments in your professional opinion, don't you think you should check into a hospital? You are the worst paramedic I have ever seen. This movie isn't here to make sense, but rather pile on stupid moment after stupid moment from our characters. And in between each stupid moment, our characters must have been tranquilized because there is absolutely no energy to any performance in this movie. Director S.J. Clarkson instead tries to hide the fact that everything about the dialogue and characters are so boring and lifeless with disjointed storytelling that she uses the most annoying camera movements that never seems to hold still, and they're completely sporadic angles that supports the fact that even if director Clarkson wanted to try to distract the viewer from the horrible writing and characters, this adds to the film's lack to create a cohesive story that feels naturally progressed, jumping from spot to spot, jumping from up-close shots to upside-down shots, without providing adequate context or explanation of what in the actual fuck is going on. This erratic approach to the storytelling and direction left me struggling to connect with the characters and events, leading to a complete sense of confusion rather than engagement, to the point I didn't care what the hell was happening on screen. I'm sure director S.J. Clarkson thought this would add an excitement element and would help with the pacing of the movie. But the pacing of Madame Web is equally all over the fucking map to boring conversations between Webb and her three girls, Julia, Anya, and Maddie, played by Sydney Sweeney, Isabel Mercedi, and Celeste O'Connor, where the chemistry is never solidified and again is lifeless. The movie then jumps from scene to scene with little to no explanation, or maybe it's the mere fact my attention span was depleting because I literally felt dumber as the movie went on. We have a scene where Cassandra Webb is in the city, and then we jump to the Amazon with no explanation of how she got there or why she's there specifically in the first place. And then she has her hair, her makeup, and clothing all pristine from our superhero. Maybe that's a superpower that they don't explain, is always to look put together when running from a supervillain and traveling hours to the Amazon. Now that's a superpower I can relate to, and that's a superpower I want to have. And that almost seems like a more interesting superhero movie than what we got. And then maybe just have a supervillain trying to mess up our hero's hair. At least that would have been more entertaining than this damn movie. S.J. Clarkson, who has mostly directed TV shows, and guess what? We can tell here on what happens when you give $80 million and a 2-hour runtime to a director that's mainly done TV and has no real experiences with superhero movies. We get a 2-hour long sporadic lifeless music video, but just without the music. Instead of maintaining a balanced rhythm or pacing, the film feels like a series of loosely connected scenes, making it difficult for me to invest in the characters, or even the story or the plot. Actually, anything in the movie. This lack of planned, well-paced story transitions robs this story, robs this character, and robs this movie of the tension and excitement that is crucial for any successful superhero movie. Now, talking about our main character, Cassandra Webb, Madame Webb, this character is so underutilized and at times can be confusing on what her capabilities are. Despite the potential for compelling exploration of Madame Webb's backstory and abilities, the film barely scratches the surface and gives us kind of like cherry-pick things they want us to know just to move the story along. You can tell there is a lot more depth to this character, but the movie doesn't even scratch the surface. Madame Webb is written so anemic and underdeveloped throughout the entire movie, leaving me with more questions than answers. This is a complete missed opportunity to delve into Madame Webb's history and doesn't give clarity on barely anything with this character. We can see potential in what this character can do, but it doesn't utilize any of it. And this stems from the true root of the problem with this movie, which is the army of writers on this project, including Max Sanzema and Burke Sharpless from the other failed Spider-Man spinoff, Morbius, and new writer Claire Parker and newer writer who is also our director, S.J. Clarkson. And I have to say, man, if there was a prime example of too many hands in the cookie jar, this would be it. But with the selection of writers picked for Madame Webb, I wouldn't even use hands in the cookie jar. Our writers are so confused that they probably got confused how to even get in the damn cookie jar. So picturing these writers etch-a-sketch this screenplay, I would say these writers had too many fucking feet in the cookie jar. These writers had nothing of substance, nothing of entertainment value, and they were solely banking on the characters to create a spectacle on the big screen, and that isn't any good either. Now, the film's visual effects, typically a highlight in a superhero movie, with an $80 million budget, are surprisingly lackluster here. The CGI work, especially with our movements of our villain, Ezekiel Sims, played by Tahar Reem, who looks like a middle-aged man attempting to dress up to be Spider-Man in an awkward way. The movements of Raheem are very stiff and awkward looking, where his build didn't really match when the character went to CGI. His movements looked cheap and just didn't translate or flow on screen. The complete lack of attention to detail in the special effects undermines the film's overall quality and distracts from the immersive experience that viewers anticipate from our superhero blockbusters. I think my 2-year-old son, when he dresses up like Spider-Man, has a better fluent Spider-Man-like moves than our Ezekiel Sims character. Now, one of the biggest shocking moments when it comes to Madame Webb is the music. Usually when we take superhero or Marvel movies, we usually get at least a decent soundtrack or composition when it comes to how the action scenes are played out. The music usually does a pretty good job on supporting what we're seeing on screen. The music here was composed by Johan Senderquist, a typically reliable composer with works from Let the Right One In and Kon-Tiki. The composition here is a complete and utter disaster. It falls flat in comparison to the high standards set by previous Marvel films when it comes to the musical score. The music here often feels out of place or generic, feeling like it just belongs in another movie or an H&R Block PowerPoint presentation. A captivating and well-crafted score could have elevated the overall experience, but instead the soundtrack adds to the film's overall two shots of NyQuil feel. Madam Web, hands down, for me at least, will go down on the list for one of the worst superhero movies of all time. I hated this movie for what it is, and even though I'm not a hardcore comic book guy, it made me absolutely furious that studios pumped this to the screen to force feed fans a presentation of a comic book character, and that's all they had to go on. And they couldn't even get that right. And finally, I don't mind Marvel movies. I think they add a lot of fun factor and entertainment factor if they're done right. But Madam Web gets so many things wrong, it will continue to haunt my dreams on what in the actual fuck these filmmakers were thinking. I'm giving Madam Web a very hard 1 star.
4! It stinks.
Inside his book, adventurous Harold can make anything come to life simply by drawing it. After he grows up and draws himself off the book's pages and into the physical world, Harold finds he has a lot to learn about the real life. In the big screen adaptation to the 1955 children's book comes Harold and the Purple Crayon.
Once there was a boy named Harold. With his purple crayon, anything he drew came to life.
Come on, everybody!
As he got bigger, so did his imagination.
Who's the porcupine? Let's go to the real world.
That's not how it works, Harold. You can't just...
Whoa.
Oh, that is how it works.
And one day...
We're going after him, right?
Nope.
They stepped right into our world.
It's so beautiful. Look at all the friendly people.
Get lost, Smurf.
Here's my atlas. The real world is even cooler than I imagined it was going to be.
Look out! Are you okay?
My insides are coming to my outside.
I thought I saw a moose.
I'm a moose.
Oh my god, you have a concussion. Come on, Harold can do magic.
With this little guy, I can make whatever I want. You try.
That's spider fly.
Oh, now that is creative. And terrifying. That's terrifying.
I'm gonna triple lock the door.
Do you know what brought you to life? It's what your crayon is made of. The most powerful, extraordinary stuff on Earth. Wax. Pure imagination. You can't use the crayon all by yourself. It's too powerful. Let me help you.
I don't trust him. He's up to something.
With this crayon,
nothing can stop me. Ooh, it's a porcupine. We're gonna figure out how to stop that guy. With this. You'll have to do better than that. Oh. Okay, I am getting really good at this.
What were you thinking?
Oh, no, honestly, I don't do a lot of thinking.
Harold and the Purple Crayon is the type of movie that I wish I had a red crayon so I can write warning all over it for families. Better yet, I wish I had my own purple crayon to draw myself out of the movie theater. Now, I love family movies. I love just going in and having a good time without overthinking about a critique. I tend to keep it super simple. Did it entertain kids? Did it entertain adults? And did it add value from teaching something or give the family something to talk about or think about? I really don't like to overthink family movies, but good God, did I get dumber walking out of Harold and the Purple Crayon, to the point I don't even think I can color inside the lines now. This film stars Zachary Levi as Harold, who we are introduced to playing safely in his book as a child as an animated character, where he plays all day long with his best friends Moose, voiced and played by Little Rel Howery, and Porcupine, voiced and played by Tanya Reynolds, who all grew up inside this book within a matter of the first 60 seconds of the film, and then they all decide to go out in the real world within the first 5 minutes of the movie. Why, you may ask? Because all of a sudden, Harold hears the voice of our author, Crockett Johnson, voiced by Alfred Molina. Why does this voice suddenly appear? It's not explained, but will become apparent within the first act of the movie that we don't need an explanation. We just need to put childlike adult Zachary Levi in cliche situations with a purple crayon. It's like Zachary Levi's agent thought he needed a play date, so they made a movie like this. We get cliche after cliche situations. For example, Harold befriends a little boy, Mel, played by Benjamin Botani, who has a single strict mom, Terry, played by Zoe Deschanel, who of course is the voice of reason between cliche situations. Each situation that happens feels like it's checking a box from the family movie playbook, but dumbed extremely down. And these situations happen so quick to ensure our writers David Guan and Michael Handelman can shove as many of these situations in the 90-minute runtime as they can. Guion and Handelman are responsible for Dinner for Schmucks and Night at the Museum, Secret of the Tomb, which weren't horrible movies, but they weren't the greatest either. But this is a new level of dumb, where the screenplay must have been written in crayon, and not the small crayons, the really fat crayons. The original book of Harold and the Purple Crayon was 64 pages, and I can bet that the screenplay was about that too. I can even bet it had pictures in it for the cast to go off of, because the cast here looks so lost on what kind of movie it wants to be. Even with an experienced actor who's used to playing an adult acting like a child, Zachary Levi seems to try his best, but even this movie is too dumb for him. The childlike dialogue is way too stupid for children to listen to. There is a scene in the final act where we have two detectives shout, "There they are, there they go," and our director, Carlos Sandala, puts a focus on these detectives like we're supposed to know or care who they are. They just appear, and they are dominant on the screen to portray relevance. We get all these characters thrown into this film that has no build and fun characteristics. They just simply wander from one scene to the next with nothing important to say or do. And since we have seen all these cliches and ideas before, only done better, Harold and the Purple Crayon becomes a chore to watch. I found myself getting antsy before we get into the final act, where in the final act, we are introduced to a villain that feels thrown in. It's irrelevant, like the movie didn't know where to go. So our writers took out their big fat crayons and wrote in a villain to finish the movie off. This film did have a lot of potential if it actually stayed to the simplistic imagination and heart, almost following the innocence of the Winnie the Pooh tales. Harold and the Purple Crayon doesn't have enough to entertain kids. It has too much annoyance to entertain adults. It takes familiar family movie situations and just takes a grown man that acts like a kid and gives him a purple crayon that can create anything. And guess what? He does nothing interesting with it. This movie completely lacks charm. It lacks imagination or anything of interest. Harold and the Purple Crayon is a Crayola of crappiness. I'm giving Harold and the Purple Crayon 1 star.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
Now, before we get into the rest of the show, make sure you check out my reviews for movies that just became available to rent, buy, or stream now.
Now available on video cassette.
True love never dies, but this movie should. And the remake to the Brandon Lee classic comes The Crow, which flew south really quick, and hopefully it stays the fuck there, receiving 1.5 stars. Meet Aya. She's an AI here to help in Afraid, but she couldn't help me end the movie quicker, and I'm afraid for anybody that wastes their money on this movie, receiving 1.5 stars. Alexa, block Afraid.
I'm having trouble connecting to the internet.
God fucking damn it. Sometimes it's the one who loves you that hurts you the most. We love, we break, we pick up the pieces. in It Ends With Us, which is a powerful message told in a way that needed to be told, receiving 3 stars. Fear Is Calling, Cuckoo, where at times it's cuckoo good and other times it's just cuckoo, receiving 2.5 stars. M. Night Shyamalan brings us into another one of his traps of storytelling in Trapped, that Trapped in 1.5 stars. A revenge story that we have all seen before, only this time it's around skincare that will make you want to put on a face mask, cucumbers and all, to avoid watching this movie in skincare that received 2 stars. One of the biggest box office bombs of the year, and rightfully so, is Borderlands. That really was Borland, receiving 1.5 stars. Nicolas Cage plays a serial killer in this haunting film that reminds us once again of how good of an actor Nicolas Cage is in Longlegs, which received 3 stars. Everything he draws is about to get real in Harold and the Purple Crayon that will make you wish you had an eraser, receiving 1 star. Then finally, Every Murder Lives On in Oddity, which scared the surprise out of me, receiving 3.5 stars. You can check out those reviews of my previous episodes, and while you do, don't forget to follow or subscribe, and please don't forget to leave me a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Now, there is a podcast that not only is a part of my weekly listening routine, but you can also check out my latest appearance on their latest episode, where I joined Josh from the show and Caesar from the No on 15 podcast to review Transformers 1. And I'm talking about the Talking Smack podcast. That episode is now live. Make sure you hit follow and subscribe, but let's hear from the Talking Smack podcast now.
What's up, nerds? This is Josh from Talking Smack, where we talk superheroes, movies, animation, comics, and so much more. Every week, we break down the latest blockbuster movies, TV shows, revisit comic events. We even talk to comic creators like Kyle Higgins, Melissa Flores, and Matt Groom. And don't miss out on our Superhero Showdown episodes, where we debate your suggestions on who would win in a fight, or maybe they might become friends. So join in on the conversation with me, Josh, and my co-host Alex every Wednesday on your podcatcher of choice. Look for our yellow and red icon, and we'll see you soon, Smackheads.
3. This is bad.
God commands Taylor Perry, not the real Perry, to write a movie inspired by his crazy, dysfunctional family. But the devil has his own plans in this absolute sin that it was made, not another church movie.
This is usually my day of rest, but I'm feeling like something. Hashtag Holy Davison. Holy Davison. Feeling very blessed today.
Well, hey there, Counselor Ferry.
It's actually pronounced Harry. It's Taylor Harry. My P is silent. My favorite nephew.
This morning, God told me I'm supposed to empower all the women of the world. God wants you to be pimping. Huh?
That wasn't me. I never answered his prayer. I'll do anything for you, God.
I need you to become a writer.
I don't know nothing about writing.
Do you know what a plot point is?
No.
A good storyline?
Hell no, I never heard that.
She deserves to get half. Half?
You came back to cry? No. Judge said half. Your ass is gonna get half. You think you're gonna get my money when I'm gone? Oh, I'm gonna get your money. You know what you're gonna get? This gas money.
Shut up and take it like a man.
I didn't know you was gonna go all 50 Shades of Grey on them, brother.
Somebody's gotta watch Guidance Little Girls.
Oh, don't worry about that, man. They stay strapped ready for any unwanted police officers.
Just pull the car over before the dude goes to jail.
Ooh, that's a good idea for a sequel.
Is that too much?
It's like life. The devil's in the details.
Today was a God's day.
Now, I'm going to do something a little bit different in this review. Instead of wasting my time telling you how bad this movie is, I decided to do something a little bit more abstract. I wanted to do something with this review to gain my brain cells back. So instead of going on a complete rant of this movie, I will be first playing a clip from a Shakespeare reading. Then, after I feel my brain start to come back from the utter dumbfounded stupidity of this film, I will take you on a journey of my thought process while watching this abomination. Because there's bad movies, there's awful movies, then unwatchable movies. Then there's not another church movie. Without further ado, here is Patrick Stewart in a reading of sonnet number 61 from Shakespeare.
Sonnet 61. Is it thy will thy image should keep open my heavy eyelids to the weary night? Dost thou desire my slumber should be broken, while shadows like to thee do mock my sight? Is it thy spirit that thou send'st from thee so far from home into my deeds to pry, to find out shames and idle hours in me, the scope and tenor of thy jealousy? Oh no, thy love, though much, is not so great. It is my love that keeps mine eye awake, mine own true love that doth my rest defeat, to play the watchman ever for thy sake. For thee watch I whilst thou dost wake elsewhere, from me far off, with others all too near. Little bit of bitterness in that, it seems to me. Perhaps even angry.
And that makes me feel just a tad better. But before I give my actual thoughts on the movie, I just want to state the creators and the talent behind this movie, because it would be wrong for me not to give credit where credit is due with this absolute terror of a movie. Here is the list of destroyed careers. Sorry, the cast of the movie. The movie was written and directed by Johnny Mac from The Real Husbands of Hollywood and stars Mickey Rourke as the devil, Jamie Foxx as God, Vivica A. Fox, and Kevin Daniel. And now that's out of the way and Shakespeare has introduced some intelligent dialogue into this review, I now want to share with you my thought process, what I was thinking during the movie. And here we go.
Good God, this movie sucks.
The whole point of this movie was for us to end up growing.
I'm giving Not Another Church Movie a generous 0 stars.
2.
You're really bad at this.
Darren Barrowman is an unwavering optimist who spends his days looking after the pool of an apartment block and fighting to make his hometown a better place to live until he gets wrapped up in solving a mystery that he never expected. Chris Pine writes, produces, stars, and it's his first time in the director's seat in Pool Man, which is understandably in limited release right now.
Hey there, Los Angeles. You've reached Awesome Aquatics. Have an awesome aquatical day.
Jack, what am I tasting here? This is my take on the Langourzate cream. A little bit of cinnamon. It's brilliant.
Dare, should we get married?
Yeah, I mean, we could.
Mr. Barrowman, welcome back. What is it today?
I have just finished a study of how we can make the bus schedule great.
Reggie?
Mr. Barrowman, I'm June Del Rey,
Yeah?
Executive Assistant to Councilman Stephen Torenkowski.
Steven's dirty. He's a threat to our great city.
Yeah.
I need your help taking him down.
Like undercover?
Yes.
I'm not really trained. Can I get back to you? I have to take this case. He's got a gun. A gun! We have got to get the women to safety.
Okay, this is exactly what I'm talking
This
about.
is what she's saying.
Look over here. I will look at it.
Do you even know what it is I do?
Understand. Sometimes it's hard to feel different, to feel all alone. I started meditating to push away the blues, but now I feel them coming back. I'm not sure what to do.
Honey, is there something you'd like to tell me?
I'm climbing a tree into a canopy of lies, Diane.
We don't know how far up the food chain this thing goes.
Can I trust you?
Stephen Torenkowski is not what you think he is.
Is he a lizard?
Excuse me?
I think you just need to figure some things out before you can hold space for someone else.
Spacious!
He's spacious for crying out loud.
I'm spacious!
Jack.
You waded out in the deep end, and now you're drowning right before our eyes.
I need you to be brave.
I know it's dangerous, but I got myself into this. I gotta get myself out.
You know, I always thought Chris Pine had a lot of talent. It's not an easy gig to take on the role of Captain Kirk and have a majority of audiences agree on a job well done. But watching Poolman, I was impressed with the amount of talent he showed on producing, writing, directing, and starring in this movie. But when I say talent in this context, let me clarify that I was trying to think of another actor that single-handedly destroyed his credibility in a producer role, a director role, a writing role, and this takes even more talent since this is his expertise, his acting role. At about the 45-minute mark, I started to keep a mental checkbox of the role he was responsible for that he just demolished, and I would just think, check, when I had enough to sigh, cover my eyes in disbelief, and think he officially destroyed that. And by the 45-minute mark, he had already checked 3 out of the 4 boxes for me. So he had 1 lifeline left, and that box was checked 15 minutes after. Now, I heard buzzing and whispers around this movie during festival season, and not the good buzzing that we really hope to take away from Sundance or the Toronto Film Festival. It was being held as one of the worst movies ever to hit Sundance. I do take a lot of these early reviews at festivals with a little bit of skepticism because I have heard this all before, and I have seen movies that have been deemed horrible at Sundance, but I've actually really enjoyed, including 2018's Arizona starring Danny McBride. It wasn't a masterpiece, but damn was it entertaining and silly. I was kind of hoping for the same thing here. When watching the trailer, Poolman to me just screamed pure eccentric fun entertainment. And eccentric, yes. Fun entertainment? No. This is the type of movie that I'm sure looked good in Chris Pine's head at 3 in the morning after not sleeping for 3 days and chugging half a bottle of tequila. And when I say it probably looked better in Chris Pine's head, I mean just there, nowhere else. It probably didn't look good on paper and it doesn't look good on screen, which is why he probably took the executive producer role to make this movie happen. Now, as I was walking out of the movie and shaking my head, I was trying to think of a movie that made me cringe so hard for its entire runtime that my face hurt by the end of it. And that was 2003's The Room starring Tommy Wiseau, which was so bad that it turned into an unintentional cult comedy. This I can confidently say won't be as lucky because, to The Room's credit, the only thing The Room has over Poolman is that they are both cringy, but Poolman adds an overlaying feeling of pure extreme annoyance from its characters that even the likable on-screen presence here of Danny DeVito doesn't give me buy-in. I dreaded every moment with these characters, especially our main character, Chris Pine, who plays our pool man, Darren, that's shooting a documentary. This character is so overacted by Chris Pine that even though he wrote him, I don't think he even has a clue of what kind of character he wants this man to be. It plays like a tranquilized mix of Jim Carrey's Ace Ventura and 1999's Eddie Murphy's Jeff Ramsey from Bowfinger. Each joke or line of dialogue is delivered by Pine with high energy and body language, but line delivery of that of a whisper. It was a complete and absolute chore to follow Pine on this unbalanced journey that leads to an unsatisfying first-year film school student cliche climax that I think I have seen more film projects from high school treated with more high detail. The main problem we have with Poolman is that we can visually see the sporadic, unbalanced thoughts come onto screen from Pine, with it more prominent in the dialogue that feels like a long-winded word vomit every time a character speaks. It's like watching somebody poorly tell a joke and explain why the joke should be funny. At one point, my toes began to curl in pure embarrassment to the talents on screen, and there's some sympathy I had for those that signed up for something they will regret. There is a scene in the last act where we have Chris Pine give it a go at a gripping speech to his co-stars, and we can tell by Pine's camera movements he wants to attempt to make the scene more gripping than what it is. As the camera pans to his co-stars Danny DeVito and Annette Bening, even these talented actors have a hard time keeping their facial expressions of content. We get a subtle feeling from reading the faces of Pine's co-stars of them thinking of what in the actual fuck is going on here. Now, I'm sure some people will cherry pick and find hints that Pine is trying to create a dry, adverse, abstract type of humor, where it plays like a looking glass into Pine's head and his type of humor, where only he finds it funny. And when you add that into his introverted type of humor, the character direction is going to be off. And when you add this type of humor that you only find funny and you're the one directing yourself, it's not going to be funny. I didn't laugh once during this movie, but more prominently, his comedic timing is what really is the kryptonite here, where the movie plays as just one long brainstorm of ideas and a complete word vomit on screen. The movie really never takes a pause for us to even know if we should at least give a sympathy laugh. The only one that seems to know how to get the comedic timing right is Stefan Tobolowsky, but he is underutilizing playing a small city council member. Poolman is not so much a frustrating mess because it starts on a low note and it ends on a lower note. It's purely the most obnoxious obnoxious, uninteresting, annoying, and a movie made to not give creative outlet to Chris Pine, but rather put himself on a pedestal that ends with Pine pulling back the curtain from his obvious creative flaws. Pine needs to stick with being directed and leave it at that. I'm giving Poolman 0 stars.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
Number 1.
Lifelong friends travel to Key West, Florida to be bridesmaids in a college girlfriend's surprise wedding. Over the course of one outrageous trip, sisterhoods are rekindled, the past resurfaces, and there are enough sparks, sex, and romance to change all of their lives in unexpected ways. So this movie wants you to believe in the new comedy, if you even want to call it that, The Fabulous Four.
Look at us! The old gang back together again! Oh my God, so glad you're here!
Does this look like a sin to you? My gummies are a near religious experience.
Why don't you let me decide?
Champagne, please.
And a tiny bit of weed would be really hit the spot.
Here I am over here.
Yes, it's Mama. You're gonna be an old cat lady, and you're gonna be alone, and you're gonna have sex with your cats.
What?
People do it.
Emotionally prepare yourself. Marilyn's on TikTok.
Material girl in the material world. Got them diamonds so heavy.
No.
I have a surprise for everybody.
What's this?
The Kegel ball that Marilyn left for me.
Yes, but does it vibrate?
I don't think you should be doing this.
Lean in, lean in.
I want to make a video.
I got myself an obsession.
Come on, Alice. Open the box.
Will you be my
Bridesmaid.
What? John died just 2 months ago.
So she got out there kind of quick.
It takes longer to cancel a gym membership.
Cause it gave me all I've been.
Why was Lou so mad at you?
You stole her man? No, I didn't.
Yes, you did. Back in the day.
I couldn't make a bed, but I could break a bed.
What do you think of the dress? I think you should stay away from an open flame.
Aw, same old Lou.
You got to give a little love. Give a little love. Go on, just do
It's friendship. And what's more important than that?
I used your Kegel ball. When? Just now outside.
Hey, somebody stop that kid. He stole my bike.
TikTok was mine. You stole it from me.
How does it feel?
Oh, God.
Is it just me, or do we need some champagne?
Give a little love.
Now, a movie with 4 senior citizens that get put in situational comedy elements, there is a demographic that this was targeted for, and I am not one of it. But with that said, when last year's 80 for Brady came out, I bought a ticket for the first showing in the morning, and it was a closed caption viewing. My initial thought was nobody will see this movie this early and it being closed captioned. When I arrived at the theater, I arrived to 4 senior living buses parked out front of the theater. I walked inside my auditorium to a packed showing full of senior citizens. During this viewing, it was not only full of coughs, clearing of throats, whispers that sound like yells, and instead of just laughing from the audience, I get narration of laughter with members of the audience stating, "Oh, that's funny," instead of just fucking laughing. The reason I bring this up is, like 80 for Brady, The Fabulous Four was meant for a specific older demographic, but unlike 80 for Brady, The Fabulous Four wasn't funny. In a fairly busy theater and an hour and 40-minute runtime, I heard not one piece of laughter from my theater. And when a joke was attempted to land, I didn't even chuckle. As a matter of fact, I didn't even want to give it the satisfaction of even an eye roll. This film is the worst cut and pasted pile of spoiled tapioca pudding garbage you will see this year. The Fabulous Four has a fully loaded cast to appease its target audience, with Bette Midler, who plays our bride-to-be Marilyn, Susan Sarandon as Lou, who's a no-fun friend that has conflict with Marilyn, Cheryl Lee Ralph as Kitty, as the mother type in the group, and of course, what would it be a senior citizen female comedy without having a slutty one in the group? And that is Alice, played by Megan Mullally. Now, it's a pitch-perfect cast for its targeted demographic, but hands down is the worst performances from each and every one of these ladies. movies. The problem we have is that the screenplay by newcomers Anne-Marie Allison and Jenna Milley from 2020's The Golden Arm isn't funny, it's not clever, it's just pure nothingness. All it is cut and pasted from other people's work. And our season cast tries to make something out of nothing, and it just comes across as overacted and forced. Especially Bette Midler, whose facial expressions are so overly done, and she has to shout almost every single line. She overpowers the screen, where I can just picture the rest of the cast in their heads begging her to just shut the fuck up. The pen screenplay here just cut and paste cliche after cliche that we've already seen from every single movie like this. But Allison and Milley add nothing of their own creativity into their script. The pen screenplay just cut and paste cliche after cliche that we have already seen from every single movie like this. But Allison and Milley add nothing of their own creativity into this script. They insert a cliche situation, some mild dialogue, with Allison and Milley banking on the situation to be funny enough. It's almost like they watched First Wives Club or 80 for Brady 1,000 different times and just took notes on just putting these situations into this movie and thinking this would be good enough. This movie, this screenplay, it lacks edge, it lacks creativity, it has no bite to it. It has no originality. This screenplay, by comparison, makes the Golden Girls feel rated X. There is absolutely nothing here in entertainment value because we've seen it all before. And there are moments in here with our cast that just scream cringiness, but it's not intended to be cringy. I feel bad for this cast. They all look like they're trying to do their best with the utter borderline plagiarized garbage. To some extent. A lot of the issues we see with this movie can be covered or distracted by some clever direction, but our director Jocelyn Moorhouse, who is either in the wrong genre or has lost her touch since her last big projects like 1991's Proof or 1995's How to Make an American Quilt. Moorhouse is completely out of her element here, with camera work that just looks like it came out of a year one film student. She finds ways to get every single shot wrong when it comes to capturing moments in a film that could at least be visually amusing. But instead, she ends up making the scene even harder to watch with capturing our seasoned ladies at every angle to make them look and seem uncomfortable with even being in this film. Moorhouse seems to have a hard time knowing where to place a camera, or even not knowing how to give a character direction. This is a cast-controlled film, and even though this is a very talented cast, Moorhouse puts all of her trust in allowing this cast to drive the movie, and it just doesn't work. This is not only an insult to the generation and demographic, but an insult to the filmmaking process. This is not only one of the worst directed movies of the year, but this is also one of the worst written movies of the last few years. It absolutely baffles me how this movie even got made, why this cast even got involved in this. There is no way this cast read this script and said this is funny. If it wasn't for this cast on board, this screenplay would have been just thrown in the nearest trash can. The Fabulous Four has very little value to its watch, unless you're a diehard fan of one of our four ladies. But even then, fans of the cast will walk out uttering the words, "What in the actual fuck was this?" The Fabulous Four took me by surprise. I went into this movie for a lighthearted comedy with the usual formula, but I walked out to one of the worst movies of the year and a sense of anger that for the first time in a long time, I felt I was cheated and these senior citizens robbed me of my youth. This is also the first time in a long time I had one foot out the door to my theater in the middle of the movie. The Fabulous Four needs to be dropped off at the nearest rest home. I'm giving The Fabulous Four a not so fabulous 0 stars. And that's a cut on this week's edition of The Movie Wire. I want to thank you for listening and thank you for your support. You can also show support for the show by following me on Instagram, Blue Sky, X, Thread, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and Letterboxd at Movie Wire Show. And please don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you haven't yet checked out the Cult-Worthy Cinema Podcast and the Movie Wire's new show, Back to the Balcony, make sure you do. The link to that show will be in the description of this episode. I also lastly want to give a big thank you to Dan over the Casting Views podcast for giving us that absolutely brilliant narration at the beginning of the show. Until next week, do me a favor, make sure you stay for after the credits to show the respect to those that put their blood, sweat, and tears into making a feature film and support your local movie theaters.
We've taken a dive into movies that missed, from flops to blunders, a cinematic twist. With Justin Henson, we've had us as we rank the films that just sucked ass. Thank you for allowing me to break. Have a drink, take a shot, take a nap for the stories that drove us insane. The Movie Wire Show with humor and flair. Signing off now, but we'll always be there to say fuck this movie. From awkward scripts to the cringiest scenes, we've shared our thoughts on these filmic machines. Thanks for joining us on this wild ride. Until next time, let's just enjoy the theater ride. Have a drink, take a shot, take a nap for the stories that drove us insane. The Movie Wire Show with humor and flair. Signing off now, but we'll always be there to say fuck this movie. For the films that flipped, flopped, and didn't fly. Raise your hands up and give the Movie Wire salute. The one single finger to say fuck you for wasting my time. Here's to the last 3 months of years. With hope this list doesn't grow. This is Justin Henson signing off. Fuck all these movies. Have a drink, take a shot, take a nap for the stories that drove us insane. The Movie Wire Show with humor and flair. Signing off now, but we'll always be there to say fuck this movie. Here's to the films that spark our delight. Join us next time as we take our flight. Our flight.
Thank you for bringing me to the movies.
Let the credits roll. We say farewell. Join us next time. We'll have more tales to tell.